Welcome back, everyone, to Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich China rework. And right now we are in the League of 8 Provinces, which is the glorious country that we need to start with to play as, you probably saw from the title, the left KMT, which is what we're going to be doing. So, what about the League of 8 Provinces? Essentially, there we go. Essentially, we're gonna be playing as them until we can switch. So yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a strange episode in that we're gonna be playing as a country that we're gonna be facing, a bit like how you do when you play an American Civil War nation. There we go. So this is obviously the China update, in case you haven't seen. It's out somehow. Anyway, this is the whole sort of backstory of the League of 8 Provinces. I won't be reading it in detail. I won't be reading too much in detail, but you should definitely pause and read this if you don't know anything of what's going on down here. For now, I'll just say the League will endure. So basically what we are is, I'll just briefly explain. We are this warlord Sun Chuanfang, who has united 8 provinces of southern China, at least nominally, under his rule, and at least nominally they are beneath the Qing Empire in Beijing. So as you can see, we are part of the Qing Empire, by law, de jure. There we go. Sun Chuanfang meets with governors, speaking about things. And yeah, basically, we are 8 provincial governors, most of whom are warlords, meaning that they're military people who have just the civilian responsibility of governorship. Anyway, the Geoghan Railway. These are a few of the events that lead to the collapse of the League of 8 Provinces, which is going to happen relatively quickly, and which is going to allow us to play as the insurgent Left Kuomintang, which is our objective. So today marks the long-planned opening of the Geoghan Railway, the latest extension to which finally connects Shanghai to Nanchang, which is this one, a city deep in Jiangxi Province. The opening is noteworthy for a few reasons, first among them the prominent involvement of Chinese engineers. The less optimistic people are quick to point out that the AOG, aka the Germans, who are present in China through the AOG and through, for example, the Nanking Commission, and we are definitely a, sort of conduit for German influence into China. This part of the country is much more influenced by the Germans than everywhere else. Their newfound access to rich mineral deposits in the central Chinese region, as well as Jingdezhen porcelain, which is like traditional Chinese porcelain. Jingdezhen is a place that's like around here, I think. Around this lake is called Dongqing. Or actually, maybe it's this one. Maybe actually the porcelain's over here. I might be getting it wrong. Sure, I think, yeah, it should be around here, but whatever. Which has been able to fetch high prices in Berlin. So we got a good thing, but an unexpected announcement. Oh no, later this morning, to the surprise of many, and not to the surprise of us, the AOG, the Germans, who had funded the railway, have publicly announced the plans to purchase and consolidate a number of eastern railways. Among them is the new Geoghan Railway. So it turns out that they weren't, doing this project as a collaborative one, that they wanted in the end to have the control of the railway concessions over eastern China. While Chinese management will be permitted to remain, they will now answer to a German directory board. Though scarcely admitted to the public, few authorities in the League seem to have been forewarned of this development, and the police response to protests has been slower than normal. Now, why protests? Well, generally, economic consensus to foreign powers in this time period in China weren't exactly well seen. And especially with railways, they were the spark that sort of ignited the unrest which took down the Qing Empire in the first place in the 1910s, the railway protection movement. Anyway, unsurprisingly, the consolidation of the Central China Railway under AOG management has met with widespread criticism. Intellectuals have condemned the move in domestic papers, followed by prominent Anglo-American publications on oh no, also attack on foreigners, so unrest. Attacks on foreigners. There we go. Boycotts in Beijing. Well, that doesn't have to deal with us. So there seems to be quite a few things. Railway bombings. Blame for the attacks has been leveled against various targets, from bandits to KMT to Japanese agents. Terrorism. We will lose our stability, our manpower, our infrastructure. Some have suggested German involvement, who they suggest are targeting their own possessions to set the stage for an intervention. It's a false flag. Tales now describe extensive webs of conspiracy, disappearances of outspoken individuals, and transfers of millions of yuan into the League Marshal's own pockets. What are we supposed to do? Attacks on foreigners. The German consulate in Nanjing has advised the Kaiser's subjects to arm themselves and only travel when necessary. Reports from the north and south. In the Jiangfu insurgent zone, which is down here, near the city of Longyan, the KMT guerrillas have staged a series of increasingly bold raids, striking around the inland cities of Yongding and Longyan. Governor Zhou Yinzhan has long struggled to assert control over the mountainous province, with control often limited to the coast and the larger inland cities, and now his grasp grows all the more tenuous. Now, the thing about Fujian Province, which is down here, is that, as the guy said over here in the, as it has been described to us by the event so kindly, it is a very mountainous region except for the just immediate coastal area. So while the coastal areas, house ports that are centers of trade due to their location near Taiwan and relatively near the Philippines, which can be, used as a springboard to go into Southeast Asia, basically, only the coastal areas actually have access to the outside world, while the mountainous regions near the border between Jiangxi province and Fujian are just a shit pile of just completely isolated regions, and they harbored basically fiercely independent sort of populations for a long ass time. So there we go, temporary setbacks from the north and south. Well, meanwhile in Jiangsu, which is up here, and it's a completely different region, it's entirely it's very flat, and it's also very much entirely settled. While Fujian is a wild sort of landscape when you go inland, Jiangsu is pretty much one of the most urbanized, well, historically it has been, it is still today one of the most urbanized regions, and also it is one of the regions that has the highest rate of cultivation, and the highest rate also of cash crops in cultivation, so it's actually a completely different environment. Governor Zheng Junyan reports increasing agitation by Yiguandao adherents, who are agents of one of the two Zhangs over here, one of the people from Shandong clique, and that's a folk religion, basically, a folk cult, trying to, spread their own fanatical influence, spreading over the border from Shandong. These religious fanatics have been a point of long-standing frustration for the governor, but their involvement may be well encouraging the rising unrest. Boycotts. Talk of a boycott on German goods has provoked or has accompanied growing protests throughout eastern China. A telegram from Beijing. Basically, that's Wu Peifu checking on us. Wu Peifu is the army minister in Beijing. Actually can't see him here. We can see him here. He's the chief of the army, and basically he is the true leader of the Qing Empire, the true, force behind the throne, the puppet master kind of guy. He is the leader of the Zhili clique, the Zhili faction of warlords, while we are the Nanjing clique. And yeah, basically demonstrating that we need to, our response must be careful and measured, demonstrating that we need no central government assistance to disperse these insurrectionists. Everything is definitely under control. Yeah, with boycotts going on with German goods. Basically, boycott on German goods has accompanied growing protests throughout eastern China, provoked by an assortment of Kuomintang agents, nationalists, religious cultists, and ideologues. More disturbingly, some local garrisons have stepped back and allowed the unrest to grow, unwilling to risk being labeled Hanjian, or race traders. Basically, sellouts, the foreigner. In order to ward off intervention from Beijing, advisors from the Nanking Commission have suggested, so basically the Germans, have suggested that League Marshal Sun publicly declare that the situation is under control. Elements of several divisions in Nanjing stand ready to be deployed along the cities of the lower Yangtze, where the protests are the largest, and the provincial garrisons could be given the green light to take whatever action they need necessary to quell the open dissent. Let us use maximum force. These rebels must be dealt with. The Wuhu incident, or Wuhu incident. This afternoon in the city of Wuhu, the protests, bolstered by striking workers from nearby German-owned factories, quickly escaped police control. Within a matter of minutes, the police, the garrison, and their reinforcing troops had begun firing on the crowd and on each other. That's a classic. Over 200 are already confirmed dead, with 4 times as many likely wounded. So there we go, our country's falling apart. Yeah, basically because our country is not really a country, it's just, you know, it's just an informal alliance of a few warlords that don't really like working against each other, and when things go south, well, it explodes. So Anqing breaks free. Now, Anqing is probably the most important city after Nanjing, flowing up the Yangtze River, you know, the main artery of central China. Which actually goes all the way from basically Tibet and Sichuan over here, flows down, goes into Chongqing and Sichuan, goes down again, lands in Wuchang, or Wuhan as it is known today, goes down into Anqing, and then into Nanjing, and then into, you know, the sea near Shanghai. So basically, down this river, Anqing is the first, like, big city that you meet while you're going towards the coast from the more inland area. And the governor here, Chen Tiaoyuan, is very, very unhappy with the situation, and he's an opportunist kind of guy. He was a commander during the revolutionary period, the Republican revolutionary period. And he knows the strength of these kinds of anti-foreign movements. And so what he wants to do is that he wants to take up the anti-concession movement, aka the movement to prevent the Germans and anyone else from gaining economic concessions in China to further his own agenda. So he's going to be basically declaring independence and saying, you know, you're pushing patriotic citizens to the edge of despair. Now, he doesn't particularly care that much about it himself, but, oh well. So we could play as him, but first we're gonna say we bide our time. So this is the first time that someone breaks free. Now, his focus tree is basically all about finding a political place for himself and his faction. He can either ally up with the Japanese or ally with the Qing Empire. And in both cases, he's gonna be really annoying. Both cases, he's going to be really annoying. He is not a fun man. And his objective is to reunify, or at least some of the provinces, in this case, 5 of them, of our league. Right now, the league is the League of 8 provinces. Well, we're lacking 1, so technically the League of 7 provinces. And there we go, Black Monday reaches the east. How will we pay for the troops? Well, that's because basically all of our money comes from the Germans, from German loans, so... basically, our industry and our spreading unrest is making sure that things are difficult. And okay, so in Shandong province to the north, the Yiguandao, the religious fanatics, have managed to win and take control of the province. So they're definitely going to want to push south and, you know, deal with the warlord degeneracy and moral insurrection. Anyway, dissension in the ranks. The officers' grumbling is made all the worse by a small but vocal clique of officers sympathetic to Chen Tiaoyuan's cause. So basically our officers are just like angry that, well, we're not paying them, or that we are unpatriotic race traders, arguing that the League should never have become so dependent on German handouts. In the barracks and in the streets, soldiers are being riled up by Yiguandao adherents, so up, you know, these guys, seeking converts and preaching against foreign wickedness, while the Kuomintang and other leftist groups hide in the shadows, disseminating propaganda and announcing the imperialist collaboration. Nothing has yet come of these activities, but what was once routine unrest is now threatening to undermine the very foundations of the League. So a bunch of divisions are refusing to follow orders and have been demobilized, so from like 28 troops or whatever, we're now down to 18. We are now down to 18 divisions. So basically this is the collapse of the League of Eight Provinces, but Sun Chuanfang maybe will save it. No, Sun Chuanfang lies mortally wounded, shot from behind by an assassin disguised as a serving woman. Basically he is now dying in his Nanjing palace, and well, basically everything will fall apart. Marshal Wu Peifu has accepted our request for aid. The Beijing Liaison Council. Interesting. The riots reached the Marshal Palace. The illusion of Qing hegemony shatters. The facade of Chinese unity, having held together for nearly a decade, has begun to crumble. Rising unrest in the League of Eight Provinces, the economic shock of Black Monday pretending German retrenchment, and the inability of the national government to deliver a decisive response to either has made one thing clear. Beijing's monopoly on power is broken, and the future is now any man's game. So basically, oh, there we are. So basically, right now, there used to be the Qing Empire faction, but now it's gone. So basically, the facade of a united country, you know, that you'd see on a map, is gone, and everyone has to recognize that China is a land completely divided into different factions who are all vying for power. Anyway. Now we have the uprisings in Fujian. This one, the left Kuomintang. So the Kuomintang rebels, already fomenting insurrection throughout the League, have begun a general uprising in Fujian Province, emerging from the mountains to seize a number of villages in the province's interior. The Jiangfu insurgent zone, Jiangfu because it is made up of a region from the province of Jiangxi, which is basically this one. And Fu because it's from Fujian, which is this one as well. So it's kind of a composite word. It was already known to be a danger. But with the chaos now gripping the League, there is every possibility that they will cut a path to the coast, basically to the port of Xiamen, opening the way for aid from their syndicalist allies, because basically these guys are right now being aided by the Commune of France. Just like in real life, the KMT, the nationalists, were aided by the Soviet Union. At present, Governor Zhou Yinzhen is known to have several divisions in and around Quanzhou, but this is unlikely to be enough to stem the tide. So we can either say syndicalist scum and declare war on them, or play as the Kuomintang. Long live the National Revolution. So here we are. Okay, 22nd of February, 1936. 1 day has passed since the declaration of the glorious insurrection for the liberation of the, of the fatherland against the foreigners and their lackeys. Anyway, so now our game truly starts. It's quite good stuff. Now, we start off in an interesting position, in that as the left KMT. Oh shit, actually no. We absolutely need to research superior firepower. In that, as the left KMT, obviously we start off as an insurgent group, basically. We're partway between a guerrilla army and a government, a secret government. Basically, people here just basically pretend to be part of the central government, while in actuality follow our every word. And we are here to liberate basically the regions and enact our social programs while recruiting followers to launch the uprising and take over, real territory. So for now, we're basically a guerrilla force. The second NRA. We are now in open revolt, and as such, our military forces must move from insurgent tactics back to conventional warfare against the warlords. More units must be raised in larger formations, and in doing so, will form a second national revolutionary army to finally unify China. Now, this faction, in case you don't know, is basically the people that took control of nationalist China in real life, except it is the leftists within that party, the KMT, rather than the rightists that took over in real life, the right wing. And instead of taking over by a military victory, like in real life, we are now left to be insurgents. Anyway, and the National Revolutionary Army was the army that that the nationalist revolutionaries had created in the first place to take over China. And now we're trying to make the second one. So basically we're in a war together with the Anqing clique, the anti-concessionist warlords, against the Nanjing clique, which is what's left of the League of Eight Provinces. And we have a few missions to do. We have a lot of things that we can do in the Chinese National Revolution. First mission is to get access to the sea, aka take over the port of Xiamen, which is held actually by German trained troops, Hilfstruppe, Xiamen. So to get access to the sea, we're gonna get a bunch of rifles because we capture stockpiles and because shipments come into us from overseas. And the Shangqing Tianguo also decide to attack. So right now we're basically in a position where, you know, everyone is staking their claims to whatever provinces. And Marshal Wu Peifu backs Nanjing, I think I saw. Or maybe backs Anqing. No, Anqing actually went to Japan, which might be a big problem because now the Japanese imperialists will be supplying them. Now we have two other missions. We have to secure Fujian Province and secure Gannan Prefecture. Gannan Prefecture is this one, which we're about to secure by taking Ganzhou with this militia, the 2nd People's Militia Brigade, Min being Lu. Whenever you see a Lu, that means brigade. Whenever you see a Shi, SHI, that means division. So right now we have all brigades. Like if we take a look at our templates, we are, you know, pretty shitty troops. These are insurgents and not like real combat units. We're gonna have to reform our army later on. Okay, White Sun over China. The people in Longyan, our provisional capital, were surprised when a young American man appeared and walked around the capital of our revolution, asking the locals questions about the life here and our struggle. While his inquisitive behavior seemed completely spontaneous and drew a lot of equally curious stares and wild gossip, it was actually the result of hard work of our publicity department. The foreigner in question is Edgar Snow, an American journalist based in Shanghai, who came to Longyan to be the first Western writer to see our principles in practice and firsthand. With help from our experienced scouts, he got here safely from the front lines. He spent his time here doing interviews with the leadership figures, including Madame Sun, who is the wife of Sun Yat-sen, who's the basically father of the Chinese Revolution, a bit like the George Washington of China. She is actually not part of the government right now, but we could have her as a head of government, I believe. Madame Sun, apparently not. Really now? Person of influence? What the hell? Foreign Minister. Let's see if we can find Madame Sun anywhere. Nope. That is sad. We have some economy ministers, but we don't appear to have... yeah, no, obviously she's not going to be a chief of the intelligence. Oh well, that's sad. But she can definitely be a head of state. And Wang Jingwei, who is our current leader. But also with ordinary soldiers and common people on the streets. He was already quite sympathetic to our cause, and we made sure for him to see that our fight is just. Today his book hit the stores in the West and is already lauded by some as the scoop of the century. It will surely have a positive effect on our image in the eyes of the people of the world, despite whatever mean-spirited naysayers and apologists of imperialism may crow about bias. This is Edgar Snow right down here, and in real life this basically happened except switched. Like instead of the KMT guerrillas visiting, he visited the communist guerrillas in Yan'an over here. Under Mao Zedong, and his book was Red Star over China, while over here it's obviously White Sun over China, because our symbol is not the red star, it's the white sun over blue. Which is also, incidentally, why the video is probably going to be titled White Sun over China. Anyway, so now our objective is to expand the zone of our control as soon as possible. Now, one sad thing is that the Anqing clique will absolutely savage the Nanjing, in my experience, and so they won't really not leave many, you know, many things for us to pick up, many scraps for us, but, oh well. Ooh, the Barafia commune actually wants to send volunteers. There we go. So now we have secured Ganzhou prefecture. So now all the province has basically defected to us, and now we're the true owners of it. All right, and I would really, really love for these troops in Xiamen to just fuck off, ever so kindly. You want a non-aggression pact, but we definitely don't want that. And this person over here, this lady, is Madame Sun, who in real life ends up joining the communists. Well, not really joining the communists, but basically siding with them. And leading a group of KMT nationalists that were sympathetic to the, you know, to the way the communists were approaching the cause of the Chinese national revolution. All right. So basically our current strategy is to take as much territory as possible. Now, the other mission that we have is to secure Fujian Province, which, well, half of it is already in our control. Basically the provinces of Jian'an, or the states of Jian'an and Qinjiang. But we need to take Minhou, this coastal region. And to do that, we're gonna need to take Quanzhou City. But unfortunately, it's gonna be difficult, because the mountainous terrain is making it so that our troops, who are not exactly, you know, equipped with heavy artillery or anything, are having trouble punching through the enemy defenses. Okay, so the Nanjing capital has been moved to Nanchang, and there we go. That's the end of the Nanjing clique. Now, okay, let's see what we can do. Obviously, the main other person that has a lot of war score in this peace deal is the Anqing clique. So when dividing it up, we're gonna try to basically cut them off. Oh, that's sad. Well, I mean, sad. Yo, what the hell? Interesting. Very interesting. So, I wish that I had bloody, whatchamacallit. The thing. You know what I'm talking about. I wish I had the, Jesus Christ. I am a big dumb. That mod. The state transfer tool, so that I could, like, actually exchange this piece of land for this piece of land. This piece of land is much worse than this piece of land, but it just looks so goddamn ugly. Anyway, so now Anqing clique has done their job. Let us put our divisions in a defensive position. Why, you say? Why put our divisions in such a defensive position? Because the Anqing are definitely gonna come for us. They get a decision to declare war on us. Make no mistake, they're coming. Oh, also, we have completely won our missions by default, which is quite good. So yeah, our independence war, as it may, was pretty brief and not very bloody. And now we must continue on our merry way towards national liberation. There we go, the second NRA. This is going to give us a cavalry unit template with 4 battalions, an infantry division template with 6 battalions, and a garrison regiment template with 3 infantry battalions. But especially, it spawns 1 infantry division in Longyan. Now, instead of going down the established Jiangfu base government or anything like that, we're going to take the regional militias. 42-day focus. Why? Because this is a choice between one nation, one army policy. Basically requiring that every soldier swear loyalty, or, well, every military unit be directly controlled by the quote-unquote party state. Basically, you know, our dictatorship. While regional militia is basically integrating local self-defense societies, which have long been a very important part of Chinese culture, basically. Whenever shit goes bad, basically militias are pretty spontaneously formed by, you know, local defense groups and local dignitaries and just in general people who want to defend their homes or whatever. It's a pretty common feature of the society. And this is, well, this stays true in the modern day, although obviously after the final reunification of China in 1949, that doesn't happen anymore because there's no need. And everything becomes state-sponsored instead of sort of spontaneous. So basically, we must try to integrate them into the NRA structure as regional militias to bolster our small core forces. And that's what we want to do, because it spawns fucking 5 militia divisions with trained experience in Nanping. You know, that is pretty awesome, because right now, the thing that we need the most is bodies on the front line to charge at the enemy. Now, because we have gained control of quite a lot of territory, we can mobilize NRA militia units. Once we control... because we do not control Sunyang, we do not get the NRA militia units. That's insanely annoying. Hopefully our control of this place is fucking up something from him, but oh well. That is really bad. That is really, really bad, because we need militias, and we need them bad. Anyway, the Nanjing clique is defeated. With the capitulation of the remaining Nanjing forces, we have finally bested one of our competitors for control of the 5 eastern provinces, and our first major step towards securing the region have been achieved. Our next priority should be to finish prosecuting our conflict with Anqing so that a peaceful East can be established, and this is going to be done through the Jiangfu base government tree once we've prepared the Lower Yangtze offensive. Lower Yangtze because we're going up to the, well, Yangtze River. And the objective is going to be to capture Nanjing. So hooray! A provisional capital in Nanchang. Now, with the conquest of Jiangxi, which is this province, from the remnants of the southern Zhili, we have secured Nanchang, the province's capital, and a strategic hardpoint that threatens both East and Central China. Longyan is small and isolated, which helped the insurgency survive, but now this fact doesn't help the KMT's civil and military administration. It may be prudent to move our government to Nanchang, which is this city, until our final capital is determined. Yes, move the capital northwards. So that's pretty good. We shall detach 1 militia unit to Nanchang, so that whenever the war with Anqing starts, we can instantly take over Sunyang and be the controller of the province, so that we can mobilize the militias there and raise 2 militia brigades in the liberated zone. And another thing that we want to do, perhaps, is get another one of these militias and move it all the way up to here, so that whenever the war starts, maybe they can just rush to Hangzhou, which is this city over here by the sea, and take it. This is one of the probably most important cities in all of Eastern China, so we want to control it. Alright, so I'm going to end the first episode right here. We have established our government. Well, we haven't yet established our government fully, but we have established our presence in Eastern China, and now we must deal with our neighbors, and especially these, you know, reactionary imperialist sympathizers. So, thankfully their cooperation is still low. So, I want to thank you all for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon with some more Left Commandant.